Is this thing on? Welcome back to Big Mouth, and fancy seeing you here in June. I'm very welcome, my friends, and especially my enemies. Come in, sit down, no touching. I don't do the touching. Are you feeling charitable? Then smash the subscribe button and the like button, and please do follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad. Now, in discussing Juanita Davis's Justice League 2017 whitewashing claims, we have to go back to the beginning. Because from the very beginning, Warner Brothers were not happy with Christopher Nolan's decision to bring in Zack Snyder to run the DCEU franchise. And the whole point was that Warner Brothers wanted Christopher Nolan to mold the clay and run things himself. They wanted him to write and direct Man of Steel. It was always going to be called Man of Steel. The sequel to Superman Returns was going to be called Superman Man of Steel. So that was always the working title anyway. But the problem was with Nolan, he didn't want to commit himself to any franchise. He wanted to be free to do the independent films he wanted to make, either via Warner Brothers or Legendary or anywhere else. He didn't want to be tied down to a superhero franchise. So what happens then is, this is the core moment where really the whole thing falls down for me, where they could have said to him, do you know what, Chris? When he suggested Zack Snyder, no, you know what, Chris? We wanted you to run this. Nobody else, you, because we believe in you, we trust you, we love the Dark Knight trilogy, and we want you to do what you want with these DC characters. So if you're not interested in taking centre stage, getting your hands dirty, moulding the clay, then we're going to find someone else. So Christopher Nolan walks away. They go to Geoff Johns, and I know a lot of you don't like Geoff Johns, and there's a lot of accusations. Ray Fisher's made some strong accusations, and I back Ray in those claims. I have always been a big Geoff Johns fan, but I can't deny the evidence that's right in front of me, right? So Geoff Johns comes in, and I believe, uninterfered with, Geoff Johns, on his own, could have brought in the directors and made a DC cinematic universe that he wanted to do with the knowledge of these characters as well. He could have done it, and it would have been successful for the mainstream, right? But they didn't do that. Instead, they kept Zack and Deb in people they had no faith in and no commitment to do Man of Steel and Batman vs. Superman. And this is where it all goes wrong. You know me, I love Zack, I love Deb, I love MOS, and I love BVS. I'm just talking to you from a logical standpoint. So by them not bringing their own man or woman in, they allow somebody else's person to come in, and then when we get Man of Steel, a fabulous movie, definitely as equally the most iconic, greatest superhero movie alongside Superman the movie. I can't split those films apart in my love for them, by the way. So it's a great movie, but the critics are split down the middle, just like they were in Superman Returns. Some people thought Superman Returns was amazing, and some people thought it was dull. It didn't make the money WB wanted, but Man of Steel made solid box office, if not magnificent box office, right? But they wanted more. The reaction wasn't great. The public's reaction, a lot of the public's reaction to Superman killing was very controversial. And by the way, that was Goya's decision and not Snyder's. If you like that, give Goya the credit he deserves. If you don't like it, give Goya the disdain he deserves rather than, putting everything on Zack all the time. Zack Snyder pretty much did the directing of that movie. He didn't set out the story templates, and that's a fact, my friends. So we got this situation, and we go to BVS. They still have no faith in the man whatsoever. So they see his final cut of Batman vs. Superman, and they decide that they're going to get someone else to edit the movie down because they're not happy. So instead of being honest about the movie to the public, they marketed it like a popcorn chomping movie. So when everyone went to see it, they expected Batman to fight Superman probably centrally for a lot of the film. And it didn't happen. Instead, this is a deep film with great character development. It's probably the first independent superhero movie, not in terms of budget, but in the way it's done, in its ideology and everything else. And because the public saw all these trailers, these fantastical trailers with fight scenes and CGI, they expected to see just this mainstream popcorn chomping movie, and they didn't. So then they had to release the Ultimate Edition, because after the second weekend, which was one of the biggest drop-offs in cinematic history, because let me give you an example. We've spoken about this before. With Logan, Logan was very similar to BVS in the terms it was done. It was done in a very, very indie type of way. But because when we saw the trailers, it was sold that way, there was no shock when we went to see it, and we all were very happy with it, as I was with BVS. But BVS was missold as a mainstream movie. BVS is not a mainstream movie, and it's not for children. It's as simple as that. Do with that as you will, and everyone's entitled to their opinions. So basically, we come to Justice League. Justice League 2017 is one of the most embarrassing moments in Hollywood history. It proves that the people running Warner Brothers and DC live action at the time were not fit for purpose, because they melted under the pressure. And let me be clear here. The pressure these people were under, you will never know. I was privy to conversations, they didn't know whether to just sack Snyder after BVS or what to do. So they decided to carry on working with him, because he was well into production and filming, while BVS was in theatres. And they saw his first two attempts at scripts, and they weren't happy, because Zack's discussed that the scary idea, which they were all scared of. And even Zack said, maybe with the reaction, maybe we shouldn't do this. But the more drafts Zack and Chris Terrio gave them, the more they wanted to dumb the movie down. And look, the real reason Zack either quit the picture or was fired from the picture was nothing to do with the tragic situation of his daughter's suicide. We all would have understood, I think, if he wanted to leave the project because of that. Totally understandable, but that wasn't the reason. Zack was committed to the project. He wanted to finish the project, and probably diverting his mind from the tragedy he was going through. And maybe, it was good for him and Deb to continue working on it. I'm not them. I don't know how they felt, right? So they were forced off the picture. And then decisions started to happen. So they lied to us, and they made Zack tell us that Joss Whedon was his good friend. He headhunted him, brought him in just to finish the film, just to finish it, not to change it. We now know, of course, that Whedon rewrote most of the picture, because that's what Warner Brothers wanted, and they wanted the film dumbed down and watered down, because they believed that's what pundits and critics and the mainstream audience wanted. But here's the real thing. To do that, Sugihara wanted Whedon to work on the same schedule and finish up and release on November the 17th. It was impossible. He rewrote the picture, he reshot the picture, and as we discussed on today's DC Daily, the whole thing, it was impossible to do. So everyone's under pressure. Whedon's working with a cast that he never cast. He never auditioned them, he never wanted them, and probably didn't fancy them. And the truth of the matter is, the Justice League cast didn't fancy him. So it was like marrying someone at gunpoint and then going to the honeymoon and having to spend a weekend with them. That's the analogy I'm going to use here. But Juanita Davis does make some interesting accusations of whitewashing on 2017's Justice League. And I think it's interesting to read this, because I've never looked at this before, and the information's been right in front of me. But let's give this a read, because normally when I see this kind of thing, I do say, is this a reaction to Black Lives Matter? Is this kind of just something that people are hijacking? Because I don't like the idea of Black Lives Matter being hijacking, because I think it's a very important issue. So unless there's a genuine talking point within racism and whitewashing, I do get a bit, I suppose, offended about it. But when I looked at this, I must admit, I must say, and when I first saw the headline, I thought, oh, here we go again. But I must admit, thinking about it, Juanita is absolutely justified in her thinking. Can the Snyder Cut prove the whitewashing in the final cut of Justice League? Or maybe she meant, can the Snyder Cut improve whitewashing in the final? I think something like that anyway. For 2 years, a growing group of DC fans has called for Zack Snyder's recorded work On the Justice League movie, the theatrical version directed by Joss Whedon, they call it the Snyder Cut, and their demands for the release have grown steadily. Mainstream entertainment publications have downplayed the group, essentially calling them fanatics and the Snyder Cut a myth. However, most don't know or care to see that Zack himself is fueling the campaign. His latest release bolsters a disturbing pattern that I first reported over the summer. The final cut of the Justice League, it seems, has been whitewashed with several characters and actors of colour. A few of them with pivotal parts in the film erased or kept, with several diminished roles. It looks like this article was actually done before we had the announcement that Zack Snyder's Justice League was going to stream on HBO Max, but I think it's an interesting article nevertheless, and it's an interesting issue. On October the 5th, 2019, Snyder dropped some storyboards on the Vero social media platform, along with a little commentary. This is something that you probably didn't know. I was able to shoot all of it except for the Harry Lennix side. It was my intention to do that in LA. Harry Lennix, the Blacklist, Matrix Revolution and The Matrix Reloaded, is a veteran black actor who, according to Snyder, would have been the Martian Manhunter in the Justice League movie. Don't bother to Google. The final version did not feature Lennix or this fascinating DC character. The Martian Manhunter is actually an alien who was stranded on Earth and is now its protector. Lennix was already General Swanwick in both the Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman movies. The storyboards confirm that Juanita's saying Stanwyck, it's actually Swanwick, would have revealed his true persona, Martian Manhunter, in the Snyder Cut of Justice League. Rinsed away with the rest of the black folks and the people of colour. According to Snyder's Vero post, he never got to shoot those scenes with Lennix, and Whedon erased the Manhunter's role altogether. Thus, another black actor's role was rinsed away from the final cut of the Justice League film. Yet another black person, Lennix, is not the first. There are other black actors and POC who were cut along with huge chunks of the storyline relating to their characters. Kiersey Clements, Dope, Neighbours 2, Sorority Rising as Iris West in the Snyder Cut. Starring alongside Ezra Miller, The Perks of Being a Wallflower, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, as Flash. Her scenes were removed from the final film, as was the only major interracial relationship in the film. Karen Bryson, Shameless, Safe, as Eleanor Stone, was Victor Stone, Cyborg's mother. She was removed from the final cut of the Justice League film, along with the entire central plot of the film, which was focused on Cyborg. Snyder has posted scenes that shot not only Bryson but a whole community of black people. The Stones' friends and family. In a football scene, the stands and the field were full of black faces, all of which were removed from the final cut of the film. You see, you can't. This is stuff you just can't ignore. Cyborg's entire story arc was erased, and the character played by Ray Fisher, True Detective, Batman vs Superman: Dawn of Justice, was dispensed to a sidekick role that left him on the side of the real action. Snyder has stated that Cyborg was the heart of the story in Justice League, so the entire film was meant to revolve around him. Naturally, we would get a bit of Cyborg's background, enter Bryson, and the football scenes. This black superhero was to have the starring role of the film, but alas, that was only in the Snyder Cut. Ryan Choi, played by Orion Lee, Skyfall, Star Wars, The Last Jedi, was supposed to make a debut in the Justice League movie as well. The Asian superhero would have been a groundbreaking presence on the big screen. Choi's alter ego is the Atom. He dons the moniker and the suit after Ray Palmer. For those keeping count from the DCEU fans, the Atom never makes it to the final cut. Rick Famuyiwa is also considered a casualty, but of a larger whitewashing problem. The solo films for two characters of colour, Cyborg and Flash, were both rendered unnecessary by Whedon's cut of the Justice League film. Both were relegated to minimal roles, which never allowed for proper sake to their solo debuts. Famuyiwa, I can't even say his name, Famuyiwa, was tapped to direct The Flash before the Snyder Cut was scrapped. His film was cancelled by the studio. We need the Snyder Cut to see how deep this goes. The Snyder Cut of Justice League appears to have been a much more diverse film than the final cut ever was. So many POC characters and storylines were washed away to allow the major characters to shine through. Although many people will say that the cuts were coincidental, there is still the fact that these cuts occurred in the first place. On a film, according to Snyder, was 90% done. Furthermore, the reshoots were meticulously in cropping out these characters of colour as well. Zack Snyder continues to release bombshells about the cuts made to his film. We will keep watching to see just how badly the whitewashing was to the final film. To all those who still say that the Snyder Cut is a fable or myth, this is funny actually now, knowing what we know now. Go to the website curated by fans to chronicle all the data on the Snyder Cut. Several notable people in Hollywood have watched the Snyder Cut or have come forward to attest to its existence. At this point, to deny its existence is ignorance or an effort to gaslight thousands of fans all over the world. Now, as I say, this article was written when we were all campaigning to release Zack Snyder's Justice League. But Juanita's point is very compelling, and she makes it in a fine, cohesive way as well. Were they being racist? Look, I don't know. I can't make big claims like that. What I can tell you is the evidence is damning, and a lot of people of colour were removed from the film. And, you know, as I say, these people were just not fit for purpose. I think one of the problems was, and actually even though I do have issues with Grace Randolph, she always did say, you know, that too many cooks spoil the broth, and there was just too many people leading the franchise at the time. You see, the way the structure really works now is that Walter Hamada is running the whole thing, but he has someone else working alongside him. For example, and I forgot his name now, that guy was doing all the talking during Shazam and Joker. So, you know, we know the structure of the leadership now, and it works. And I think this is what's excited me about Hamada being at DC Fandom, because he's the one who's going to talk. He's going to launch this, you know, this list of films and their plans for the future. The DC films are now going to have a structure, and I definitely think they're going to embrace this multiverse, and that really excites me. But in terms of, I think the Justice League theatrical cut will carry on revealing bombs and people talking about it for the end of days, because it just is a film that should never have been released. It was in no condition to be released, and Joss Whedon went in there and he cut a bunch of stuff that he thought he could get away with cutting. So I'm not saying he did it for racial reasons, but he did cut out a lot of people of colour out of the film, and Juanita is definitely right to highlight that. But it's because it is interesting, because Hollywood always claim that they're liberal, and they always claim that they want to represent people of colour. And then you see something like this and you see that they are hypocrites, that they have always, in fact, been racist, and they're just pretending that they're for everyone. And, you know, even the people of colour, a lot of the times they employ on their films are people that are connected to their structure at Hollywood and not necessarily really representation. They're just kind of casting the same old people. In terms of Ray Fisher, Snyder's done well with him because he's new. I never heard of him before, so that was great to see a person of colour that we've never heard of before, not connected to the Hollywood system, not this buddy act. It wasn't like Shia LaBeouf, who, you know, was at a party with Steven Spielberg and he got the job and all of that. That's the kind of stuff we need to lose from the industry. It's like Ron Howard's daughter, you know, directing The Mandalorian, and they're talking about female representation. You know, it isn't representation when, you know, daddy's daughter gets to direct the movie. Now, if it was an unknown, talented female, I'd be going, yes, up the revolution, it's happening. But it's this kind of situation. It's their racism. It's I forgot the word for it. And it's a shame I forgot the word for it. But it's, you know, it's who you know in Hollywood. And it's who you share DNA with and things like that. And that isn't representation and that isn't inclusion. You can say it's representation and inclusion, but it's not. But what Juanita has actually linked together here is very interesting. And I thought I'd do a video about it because I think it's important to expose what happened in 2017. So nobody has to go through this again. Now, a lot of people are victims of this, the cast, the crew, Zach, Deb. But I also think we're the victims of this. I don't know about you, but I'm a massive DC fan. So when I heard they were doing a DC franchise starting with Superman, I couldn't be more excited. And this was brilliant. And for it to end up the way it did, it was devastating. It's great to get Snyder back. It's great for them to embrace the multiverse. It's awesome that we're going to get Keaton. And anything's possible now. And I'm back to being excited again. And the thing is with Ray Fisher coming out, and I think he has the right to come out, and I spoke about this morning, and we'll speak about it a little bit more. I'm definitely, my mind's set in stone that I'm disappointed that this young man who's just starting his career has been allowed to do this brave thing on his own. When I think of Ben Affleck, Gal Gadot, Henry Cavill, all keeping quiet. Even Zach's keeping quiet because he wasn't there, but he knows stuff. But he's getting his film released. He doesn't want to mess about. And then also, but in terms of his fellow cast members, I can't believe they're allowing him to do this on his own. Now, maybe we get more revelations from the other cast members this afternoon, this morning, should I say, it'll be this afternoon here in Cyprus. But I do believe that to allow this young man, who's doing a really brave thing, but also we don't know if he's doing this alone, if he's doing this with permission from AT&T and Warner Media. I do know, and I did say this on my video about 2 years ago. No, it wasn't 2 years ago. It was a year and a half ago when Ann Sarnoff came in. I told you guys, and you didn't believe me because you said you ain't got enough subscribers, you don't get enough views for you to be connected. There's a lot of little dots out there who are not very famous, that know famous people and are connected to the industry. And I told you that Ann Sarnoff was investigating Justice League 2017 and the Snyder Cut and the whole situation. And I told you when she had all the information, action would be taken. Guess what happened? AT&T took action. So I was right. I was telling you the truth. This is a channel you need to be focusing on, even though it hasn't got a lot of attention. And I wouldn't say I'm a big YouTuber. I am not a big YouTuber. We'll see what happens in the future. I'll keep plugging away until that happens. But Justice League 2017 is an interesting case in point. It is historical in the way it's the way you don't put a movie together. It's not the way you treat people. And I think we could even see the treatment of Gal, the upskirt shots that Whedon was doing. And this is a guy who claims to be a feminist. I was absolutely disgusted. I'm a straight 48-year-old male. But what I love about Gal Gadot and her performance as Wonder Woman, when I'm watching her, I'm not thinking of her as a sexual object. I can be genuine because I'm an old-fashioned guy. When I see an attractive woman, I'm like, yeah. But when I see Gal as Wonder Woman, I love her character. I just see her as Wonder Woman. I don't see anything else. And that's what I want, right? There's places to see women as sexual objects, right? Pornhub's a great place, right? I'm not being disrespectful. But the point is, I love Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, and all I see is the character. And what Whedon did to her on that film was despicable. And, to claim you're a feminist, and this is what I mean. These people in Hollywood are frauds. They are frauds. And they've got all these journalists, and I'm not talking about Juanita, of course, because Juanita's actually, spoken about these people, how they've defended Warner Brothers, how they've defended Jeff Johns and the system that created Justice League 2017. And that should be an example to Hollywood. You can keep on talking about Black Lives Matter. You can keep on talking about removing people who play, white actors who play black voices on The Simpsons and Family Guy. That's all well and good. And you can talk about cancelling the police as much as you want. But at the end of the day, you've got to get your ship in order, right? Your house in order before you start talking about other people's houses. And the point is, Hollywood is a very racist and sexist place. And it's only on the outside where they try and look that they're, it's about representation and it's about inclusion. You ask females who have been cast in films, how they've been cast and why they've been cast. The Harvey Weinstein situation, the Kevin Sugihara situation where they removed him from Warner Brothers for giving some woman who allegedly he was sleeping with jobs on Warner Brothers movies. But he wasn't sacked because of that. He was sacked because of the Justice League situation. after Ann Sarnoff looked at it, he had to go. And I think she was there before she was appointed as head of Warner Brothers, before she was announced. And I think that investigation was already going on. So he was always going to be removed. One of the best things that's happened to Warner Brothers is that AT&T have taken over. There was so many negatives coming from people who weren't happy with AT&T. So you got to think about this. There was a lot of negative articles, how their debt, how they're not a very good company, how their cable company isn't good, or whatever company they run, and people are not happy with them. It was all nonsense, and there was divisive people trying to put this propaganda against AT&T and turn the public against them. But all we've seen from AT&T since they've taken over is high professionalism, respect for the fans, and respect for DC. And I expect Harry Potter to get this treatment and all their other pieces of IP. This is how you make money. This is the future. You cannot ignore the entity that brings money to you. We, the consumer, are the reason that they are there, right? And without us, they've got nothing. So when pundits and movie critics talk about us like we're basically scum, we're the reason you exist. You talk about movies because we exist. Companies are making films because they know we're interested and we're going to make them money. So at the end of the day, things are changing, and AT&T are changing these things all the time. We know that they're giving us an extended cut of Casino Royale, right? So they're giving fans things that they want, and this is what you do. If I go into a shop for cola, I expect to get full-fat cola and not sugar-free because that's the one I like. It's not down to you to tell me what I want to buy. Now, as a film creative and a director, you have the right to create a piece of art. And obviously, we're all going to decide whether we like that art. And of course, if we don't like your art, probably you're going to have to change how you make your art because it is a business. And that's why mainstream entertainment is a very difficult business, because it does end up being very little about the art and a lot about the profit margin, because cinema is really not about art anymore. It's about profits. They've embraced superheroes. They're rebooting and relaunching properties all the time. It's not about art. Very few artistic movies are made. I remember growing up in the 80s and having a variety of films. Ghost, Field of Dreams. We've discussed this before. Scarface. Just films like this. Born on the 4th of July. Casualties of War. These are films you won't get now. And the big stars, the big actors. Of course, we don't have big actors, and we don't have film stars anymore. It's just people now playing roles. So it's very different now, the entertainment industry. I don't think it's in a good place. I'm happy that I've got a collection in my cabinet and I can revert back to it, because it's not a good time to be a movie and TV fan. And when I look at Netflix, when I look at Amazon Prime, but then I look at the golden generation of television, which for me was 2000 to about 2011, 2012, 24, Smallville, Prison Break, Lost, pioneering shows like that, which are leaps and bounds better than the Netflix originals. And that's what I believe, because they're so obsessed with social commentary now, they forget about the entertainment. I think Doctor Who with Russell T Davies is a great example, where he was able to put his social commentary, so many pieces of social commentary, but he made sure the thing was still entertaining. I know that Russell T Davies' Doctor Who educated me, having been brought up by very racist and homophobic people, and having that, drummed into my head all the time. And for me to watch Russell T Davies' Doctor Who, to watch, John Barrowman, a gay man playing this character who will sleep with anything or anyone, male, female, alien. And then when we get to that moment when Captain Jack kisses the Doctor on the lips, and I think in the past I would have been like, but at that moment I was so happy to see that. Now, I don't want a badge for that. I don't think I deserve a reward for, being positive about that moment. What I'm saying to you, it's about education. There's a lot of issues going on within the movie industry. The culture war, the entertainment industry has been dragged into the culture war, and we know that politics divide people, so it's very, very difficult. But with that's what I'm saying to you. I was educated and entertained. We need more people like Russell T Davies. This is the problem with people in Hollywood right now. This is the issue with people like Ava DuVernay. It's more about the commentary and the education than the entertainment, and it's problematic. How am I going to be educated if the education you're giving me doesn't suck me in compelling terms, in educational terms? And this is what I'm saying. So we need more people of colour, more females, more minorities making movies, but they shouldn't be instead of white people. Everyone, there should be a balance where people are together and there's equality and there's an equal amount of everyone, talented people, making films and making TV shows, but putting entertainment first. And once you put entertainment first, representation, inclusion and education can come along with that. But there has to be a balance. And this is where we are now. Anyway, I've got a dry throat. I'm going to go. Please, if you've enjoyed the video, like it, share it. I'll be back tomorrow with the DC Daily. See you again soon.